Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Gordon. We are back with another video. Today we are looking at Solana once again. What is the setup looking like for Q4 2025? I think there's a lot of bullish potential with Solana. As always, if you enjoy the content, please make sure to smash that thumbs up button below, hit subscribe, hit that bell notification icon. You've got a completely free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin linked in the description. Grab that down below and let's talk about Solana. Okay, guys, first and foremost, jumping into the technicals on the chart, Solana currently sitting right at that $240 level. We broke above a key level of resistance here just a few days ago. If we go back on the chart here, looking at this resistance that we had around that $215 area, Solana managed to close above that level on the 9th of September. That was a pretty clear signal to me that we were going to have some room to run higher, and we did exactly that. We did go as high as just around $253 in the past 3 days. We have shot higher since the 9th of September. And from a macro perspective, things are looking pretty juicy since we got those rate cuts and since Bitcoin is continuing to consolidate and has had a pretty good September thus far. We're also seeing Solana start to outperform both Bitcoin and Ethereum over the past few weeks. I'm going to share those charts in just a moment. But if we look at the big picture here, Solana now is finding a little bit of resistance around this $247 to $48 area. Again, looking on the chart here, we've got some decent resistance going back to those kind of levels. All the way back here, we can see we're finding resistance right around these areas, from small amounts of resistance in November of 2024, again in December, and again you can see here we wick back up to try retest this level around that 248 to 250 area by the end of January. What I really think is going to happen here is a little bit more consolidation before we have another move higher. Yes, we need to see Bitcoin probably leading the charge to a certain extent. Solana has been outperforming on a percentage basis. And if Bitcoin can make a move back towards 120, I think we're going to see Solana moving back to retest these previous all-time highs from January 2025. So things are looking nice. Things are looking pretty strong in terms of the technical setup here on the Solana chart. Pretty good price action, pretty amazing higher lows being put in every week for the past number of weeks since this bottom here on the 8th or the beginning of August. If we look at this whole BTC chart, just like I was referencing, Solana has been outperforming Bitcoin on a percentage basis over the past couple of months. Again, we found these lows. We had support back here around this 0.03 area. Again, we came right back down to it by the end of June, around that 0.03 support level. And since then, if we measure this on a percentage basis, Solana has outperformed Bitcoin by about 62% over the past 88 days. That is some pretty nice outperformance, but you can see here, if we zoom out on the weekly chart, we are approaching another key level of resistance on this Solana BTC ratio chart. I do think we're going to move up to retest these levels, and I think there's potential for Solana to retest, break above, and move beyond this 0.07 area on the Sol Bitcoin ratio chart. Again, I think we're going to see a little bit more of an altcoin season as we move into Q4. I think that gives permission for Solana to retest this level and move and break into essentially price discovery for its ratio chart here against Bitcoin. Obviously, we saw a phenomenal run back in 2021 when Solana really broke onto the scene here, but I do think you're looking at some really nice potential with Solana percentage outperformance. Just to get back up to these previous levels of resistance, we should see another 16 to 17% outperformance of Solana versus BTC, and then potentially moving into that price discovery area for that true explosion during more of an altcoin rally. We're seeing similar setup here on the Sol ETH chart. So again, comparing Solana to Ethereum, obviously we had to have a period of balancing the scales here, because Solana has just completely outperformed Ethereum over the past few years. If we look at this on a percentage basis, even since these lows at the beginning of January 2023, Solana has outperformed Ethereum by over 1,000%. Of course, that run up here right into the beginning of April of this year, we saw a bit of a correction because Ethereum had a phenomenal run that was well overdue. And you can see now that we've had, again, in the past 4 to 6 weeks, a nice bounce off of these middle of August lows to have Solana outperforming Ethereum over the past few weeks. The big move here is, can Solana reclaim this 200-day simple moving average and then continue on even higher to move to new fresh highs? We need to get back up to this 0.37 area on the ratio chart to retest the highs and then possibly even moving higher. I think we could move up to test this 0.5 area on the chart for this Sol ETH ratio movement. So let's see what happens here with that setup over the next few weeks. I think things are looking good for Solana given some of its latest price action. Again, that is the technicals on the chart, guys, but you know I like to look at the fundamentals and what's happening on chain with the on-chain technical analysis as well. And one of the biggest moves for Solana over the past couple of months has been the tokenization of stocks on chain. We've seen the likes of XStocks and we've seen some other competitors very recently scaling up tokenized stocks directly on Solana, and Solana has started to gain the lion's share of everything to do with tokenized stocks directly here on the real world asset narrative. If I come in here and I go by asset on the weekly, sorry, I need to go to holders first and foremost, and then I'm going to group it by network. If we group it by network, we can see the breakdown here since the beginning of July and since the launch of X stocks. You can see just how much of this market share Solana is making up in the tokenized stock space. The vast majority of everything happening in tokenized stocks right now is happening directly on Solana. You can purchase your favorite equities, stocks, and indexes like the S&P, Tesla, Apple stock, Facebook stock directly on chain on Solana in a self-custody manner. I have done other videos on the channel about that directly, guys. Search it up. You can now build a fully self-custody portfolio in a Solana wallet with no KYC. Check that out on the other videos on my channel, but it's a huge driver, in my opinion, for the continued growth of the Solana ecosystem. It is efficient, it is quick, and it is very seamless to interact on this blockchain. Next up, we've got Solana ETFs. Again, we are expecting some SEC decisions here over the next number of weeks. Apparently, we're meant to get a ruling from the SEC set for October 10th. I'm not sure if they have the capacity to extend that deadline any further or not, but you've got a whole litany of different ETFs that are up for approval from the likes of Grayscale, from the likes of Franklin Templeton, Bitwise, Hashdex, etc. Many of the existing Bitcoin ETF issuers are looking to get approval for a Solana ETF. And just as we saw the success of the Bitcoin ETF, I think this would be another very bullish catalyst for Solana. And more than likely, we're about to get approval here in the coming weeks for a Solana ETF. Again, I don't think it needs an ETF in order to keep price moving to the upside, but this will definitely act as another very bullish catalyst to help things keep moving higher. Next up on the chain compare, again, looking at the on-chain technical analysis, you have to be objective here, guys, as much as possible and really peel back and look under the hood at what's actually happening in terms of blockchain adoption, which chains are actually getting used, where is the bulk of the action happening in terms of daily active addresses, in terms of daily transactions. And if we look on the Artemis terminal, we can see a continued domination here in terms of daily active addresses and daily transactions, with Solana leading the charge. We have had a little bit of a dip here since earlier in the year, but you're still looking at, 4 to 5 million daily active addresses on the Solana network, way more than its nearest competitors like Aptos, Polygon, Near, Ethereum, Sui, and Ton. And then in daily transaction terms, you're also looking at it doing pretty much 10x the nearest competitor when it comes to the amount of volume and actual daily transactions happening on the Solana network. You're looking at, roughly speaking, somewhere between 70 and 100 million daily transactions happening on the Solana network. Near is the next closest with 4.6 million. That is a crazy difference. That is almost a 20x difference compared to its nearest competitor. And you have to try and be objective about where the capital is flowing and where the attention is going, because as a low-cost, high-throughput blockchain, you're going to see Solana continue to be the de facto choice for many businesses and many retail investors. Again, you're looking at stablecoin supply still being dominated by Ethereum, but plenty of growth happening here on Solana. Since the beginning of 2025, you're looking at growth from 5.8 billion to 12.5 billion, more than doubling the amount of stablecoin supply on the Solana network. And so things are looking pretty strong overall from a technical standpoint and from a fundamental standpoint for Solana to have a very strong Q4. Last time I did a price prediction update, guys, this was a few weeks ago. I laid out my bear case, base case, and bull case price targets for Solana. My bear case, somewhere around $387. That would see Solana getting to a $210 billion market cap at 4.2% dominance. Let's check out the dominance here on the Sol D chart again. If we look at it, that has been growing. We're looking to try and move up here to retest previous all-time highs around this kind of just under 4% area where we got to in January with that big spike and all the hype around the Trump token. So again, this is more sustainable growth, and we're seeing us moving towards retesting this 4%. And I think Solana could even get close to 5% by the time we reach the peak of the cycle. That is why my base case is up at 4.8% dominance for Solana at a 7 trillion total crypto market cap. That gets us to a Solana price around $620. And then the bull case, total crypto market cap going to 9 trillion, Solana going to 5.4% dominance. That gets us to an $897 price target for Solana. Again, guys, this was a number of weeks ago when I did this latest update. If you want me to drop another price target update for Solana, again, things are looking and brewing really nicely under the surface. Drop me a comment below this video. I will put together some updated numbers and I will get that for you on the channel in the next couple of weeks. So let me know. That is it for today's video, guys. As always, if you got any value out of this Solana update, please just take 3 seconds, drop a thumbs up on the video below, right below my finger. Let's do it right now. Smash that thumbs up button. Make sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification icon. As I said, you've got a completely free copy of The Rise of Bitcoin below in the description. Grab that now, and we'll catch you in the next one.